yourself. Because we have got these withdrawal symptoms of a sign that you have got an addiction. Nobody talks about food addiction. Food addiction is a serious problem. And what we're going to talk about today will be how to get over food addiction. So there are other, I will not cover those, but like that, there's a big problem in terms of myths is two I will cover. One, you need a lot of protein. And protein is what builds your muscles. It's a myth. Third myth, that only animal food has complete protein. It's a myth again. Second big myth is that calcium is what you need for strong bones. You see, we use calcium chalks to write. And, well, I guess they don't use anymore. Here it is. They do. And calcium is very brittle. How can calcium make your bones strong? This is calcium. Calcium is very brittle. Bones become strong when you put pressure, apply some pressure on those bones, when you use them, when you do some sit-ups or squats or bench press. Bones, to become strong, bones, the skeleton, the fiber inside the bone needs to be strong. Calcium is filling it. So that whole myth that if you drink a lot of milk, you will have strong bones is absolutely crap. The countries which consume the maximum amount of milk, such as Denmark, Sweden, Canada, and United States of America, they are the 4 countries with maximum milk and milk product consumption. These 4 countries have the highest hip replacement surgeries. So the calcium in milk does not help you build bones. It is a myth. I will especially cover one myth, which is about the protein. You need to eat a lot of protein. That's one myth. Animal protein is complete protein. Vegetarian protein is not. Protein builds muscles. All these 3 are myths. There was a project done. You all may have heard about a project called Genome Project to map all the human genes. That project became very well known. Few years after Genome Project, another project started. It's called Proteome, to study and to map all the proteins in human body. We have over 2 million different proteins in our body. So the myth that you have to eat a certain protein is BS. All you need is amino acids. Your body makes protein. A protein in your nails is different than protein in your hair, protein in your skin, protein in your eye, or all parts of body. These 10 trillion cells, and there's some debate about because these are estimates, so the debate ranges from as low as 3 trillion to 20 trillion. But every cell is subdividing itself. It's very interesting. Some cells subdivide every 3 months, some cells subdivide every 6 months. They're subdividing. When they subdivide, the outer skin of a cell requires protein. So you need protein every day. But the other interesting thing is the protein is also being destroyed every day. So what happens to that destroyed protein? And that's what we'll discuss here. Human body needs essential amino acids to form its own protein. There are over 2 million different proteins. Mother's milk has only 5 to 6% protein. A newborn child doubles his weight, his or her weight, in 3 months, from 7 pounds to 14 pounds. And all he has received is mother's milk. So, and human mother's milk has only 5 to 6% protein, and a child grows to double his weight in 3 months. Another fact is that excess protein cannot be stored in the body, and nitrogen must be removed. The difference between protein and fat or carbohydrate is carbohydrate has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but protein has nitrogen also in it. So if you only need 6% protein in a day, and let's say you ate 12%, people are recommending as much as 20-30% protein per day, because this is a myth. The food industry gets to sell the beef, the eggs, the fish, the pork, the chickens, the goat, and they want to propagate that myth. So when you eat extra protein, what does happen? You got to take the nitrogen out and convert that protein into carbohydrate or fat and burn it. How do you remove the nitrogen? You combine it with hydrogen, becomes ammonia, NH3. Okay. Forming ammonia, which is very toxic to human body. Ammonia is converted into uric acid, which is excreted as urine. This increases load on kidneys, leading to chronic kidney disease. You all must have heard the so-and-so is on dialysis. In America these days, dialysis centers is the fastest growth industry. If you are a rich man trying to find investment for your millions, the financial advisor will tell you, please invest in a dialysis center. Everybody, after they cross the age of 70, 75, and some even sooner, are needing dialysis. Because they have made such a mess of their kidney by that time by overeating protein all their life that the only way they can survive is through dialysis. And then it becomes a kidney failure, then they're waiting in line for kidney replacement surgery. So this is the big problem with protein, eating extra protein. Average human body makes 200 grams of protein every day. 200 grams. But the interesting part is it also destroys 200 grams of protein, what we call wear and tear. Where does that go? Body uses 170, 85% of that protein. So even those people who are vegetarian here, 85% of your protein every day comes from your own protein, which is animal protein. So next time somebody gives you an argument that no, you need animal protein, simply tell them it generally will come from your children, because the industry has a lot of money and they are pushing some new concepts which keep coming back in different clothing, that Atkins concept. They eat a lot of fat and protein. People love to hear good things about their bad habits. And when you tell an American that eat as much steak as you want and as much butter as you want, and if you are a doctor, he just loves it. He loves you. He'll go buy that book, come back and show it to his wife. See, Dr. Atkins says so. And then you keep complaining, I'm eating too much beef or chicken or fish. So 85% of your body's protein gets recycled. Now, some of it obviously cannot be recycled. You have cut your hair, it's gone. That protein is wasted. You clip your nails, that protein is gone. You rub your skin, the dead skin comes out, that protein is gone, cannot be used. But all the other protein which is happening in your internal organs gets recycled. It goes back into liver, gets converted into amino acids, and in your blood that amino acid goes to rest of your body, and your eye retina makes the protein it needs, and your kidney cells make the protein they need. So this information is new information. Now, a Nobel Prize was given in 2016 to Dr. Yoshinori. Dr. Yoshinori found out that when we are fasting, when we are not getting any food, body starts conserving food, and especially protein. So it starts using some of the dead cells, which are sitting in our internal part of the body. It recycles them. Every cell in our body has a skin, outer skin of the cell, a nucleus, and it has a trash can. Whenever there is a protein, destroyed protein, it puts it into the trash can. When we can't get food, it recycles that protein to build your new cells. And the process is called autophagy. And we'll talk about autophagy more in this talk. But here, process called autophagy. He got Nobel Prize in 2016 in physiology. Somebody was supposed to help me out with videos? Okay. So we want to play video 1. This is Dr. Colin Campbell.
Medical research. Towards the beginning of Dr. T. Colin Campbell's career, he was working on a PhD in biomedical research by researching ways to improve the supply of high-quality protein by growing cows and sheep more efficiently. Later on, he was then hired by MIT and went on to coordinate a research project in the Philippines, looking at aflatoxin, a carcinogen, and liver cancer. He initially went with the aim of trying to raise the people's intake of protein. However, through a series of events, Dr. Campbell was eventually made aware of a study done in India, where researchers had fed rats equal amounts of aflatoxin. One group was then fed a diet containing 20% protein, while the other group was fed a diet of 5% protein. By the end of the test, every single rat in the 20% group had liver cancer, or its precursor lesions. None of the rats eating the 5% protein diet had developed liver cancer. Dr. Campbell then repeated these experiments. What he and his team found out turned everything he had believed about protein on its head. Dr. Campbell's group used the protein casein found in cow's milk, but they went a step further and also tested soy and wheat protein. Next, they replicated all the 5% to 20% tests with all these types of protein. What resulted was to shock them all. The rats being fed the animal protein casein diets in the 10 to 20% ranges all developed liver cancer, or the beginning stages of increased foci development. However, none of the rats in the 10 to 20% plant-based protein diet groups developed increased foci production or tumours, even when given increased aflatoxin doses. You see, the thing is, when we're exposed to a carcinogen, our DNA is damaged. However, this can be naturally repaired by our immune system. But if our cells multiply before the damaged DNA is repaired, then it becomes a cancerous cell. That is the initiation process of cancer. Anybody who's been exposed to a carcinogen has cells that have gone through this primary initiation process. But it's the promotion process that decides how many cancerous cells form detectable tumours. For cancer cells to grow, they need something called promoters. What's so cool is the promotion stage is completely reversible. So what do high animal protein diets have to do with the promotion of cancer? Well, let's hear as Dr. T. Colin Campbell explains more. The audio isn't great, so there are subtitles available.
What we did, of course, we could turn on cancer by feeding them more casein, which is the main protein of cow's milk. We didn't see that with soy protein or wheat protein. That was consistent with some other ideas about animal protein in general. Now, I repeated what some workers in India had done years before that they did. It was a very dramatic effect. So then I wanted to know, I'm still being a skeptic, for a little while because it was so striking. I wanted to know, how does this work at the biochemical level? We always want to know what is the mechanism. So we worked, I had a lot of students, graduate students especially, working on this question. One mechanism, one way we measured more or less the extent to which the carcinogen gets into the cell. We found out the high protein diet affects that. After the carcinogen gets into the cell, these chemicals, if you will, they are metabolized to products that are even more reactive than they themselves are. And those reactive metabolites, in turn, are so reactive they bind to DNA. And if that's not repaired, and there's ways the body repairs them, if they're not repaired and then the cell divides at the time they're sort of damaged, that incorporates the damage into subsequent cell generation, which is a mutation. That's the way cancer starts. So we looked at things like, this enzyme is activating the carcinogen. Does protein turn that on? Yes, it does. It does it two different ways. It's amazing. Very complicated enzyme. And then our mechanism that we normally have to keep all that stuff under control, like repairing the damage to DNA, for example, or cleaning out the cells that might have become cancerous. We have mechanisms to do that. The higher protein diet actually compromised those mechanisms.
Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below and subscribe for more upcoming videos.
So this, Dr. Campbell was in Philippines trying to figure out how to feed more protein to malnourished children of Philippines. This is back in 1970 time frame. And the focus was to increase somehow the quantity of animal protein. Till that time, it was widely believed that we need animal protein to have a good, healthy life. He came across this paper that they referred to. Two Indian scientists from Hyderabad, Madhavan and Gopalan, had done that study on mice and demonstrated that the group of mice which was fed 5% protein did not develop cancer in spite of similar carcinogenic environment. But the group that was fed 20% casein, casein is the protein in milk, did develop cancer. He further replicated the study by feeding the same group of mice for 3 weeks 20% protein, the tumor grew, and then for 3 weeks 5% protein, the tumor shrank and became a jagged edge. You could see like clockwork. When you give an animal protein or casein, the milk protein, your cancer grew. You withdrew the milk protein, the cancer shrank. It was a landmark study. It changed his whole field of research. And he is recognized today as a giant in this field because he was called to China to conduct the largest study. Only one professor went from US, one from Oxford, and the rest were Chinese. Okay, so let's talk about now nutrients. There are, we all are familiar with macronutrients. We've discovered macronutrients. Protein was discovered in 1838. And so there are three, you have fats. In fats, you have essential and non-essential. Non-essential meaning that your body can make it, so you don't need to eat it. If it's available, if whatever is needed, your body will make it. And your body makes fat every day. Any extra food you consume, it's like food at home. You have a party, there's some leftover, you put it in the refrigerator. In America, they have deep freezers. Deep freezer is in the basement, refrigerator is in the kitchen. So if you throw in a big party and you have a lot of Rogan Josh left, you just go put it into the deep freezer. So there are some fats, the omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9, but 3 and 6 are most important, which your body cannot make. So What your body cannot make, we call that essential fat. It's essential that you eat it, preferably every day, because your body can't make it. Carbohydrates are rest of the food. All the vegetables, the fruits we eat, all the grains we eat have carbohydrates. The carbohydrates in the natural form are complex carbohydrates. They have a lot of fiber. And carbohydrates provide the energy we need to sustain our life. Our brain consumes roughly half the energy. If you are an average person with an average lifestyle and you consume 2,000 calories a day, and you spend 2,000 calories a day, half of those 1,000 calories are consumed by your brain, even if your body is not active at all, and you're lying in the bed and not doing anything in a hospital bed. Your brain is working. Your brain is working to keep all the organs, internal organs running, your breathing, your lungs, your heart circulation, and your brain is also busy thinking. The thought processes that you're flowing, the mind. So that consumes half the energy, and brain can only use glucose. And so you need to eat food that can give you glucose every day, and that comes from carbohydrate. And proteins are essential amino acids. We have talked about that. You need that. Then there are micronutrients, which we have discovered in the 20th century. There are about 16 vitamins, including B12 and D3. We'll talk about that a little more in a while. You have roughly 60 different minerals that you need. You need fiber. You need phytochemicals, antioxidants. And there are more. These are major ones. What gets neglected out of these is this. Most people neglect omega-3 fat. We neglect vitamin B12, vitamin D3, and fiber. Now, why do we have to think about vitamin B12? Vitamin B12 is found in the soil, in the ground. So when we used to drink water from the rivers, we got vitamin B12. When we walked bare feet, we got vitamin B12 because our feet were in contact. When we worked with our hands in the fields, in the farms, our hands got in contact with dirt, which gave us vitamin B12. But in today's society, we drink the water that comes from municipality, which is chlorinated water. That chlorine kills vitamin B12. So it is recommended to all vegan people that you must take a supplement. This is the only supplement which is essential for vegan people. The vitamin D3 is the vitamin that our body makes in the presence of sunlight. And we have stopped going out in the sun. So if your lifestyle is such that you don't get to go out in the sun much, you may want to take a supplement. Omega-3 fat is found, yes, it is found in fish oil, but no, you don't need to take fish and fish oil. It's found in flaxseed, ulsi. Ulsi is one of the cheapest seeds available. Gandhiji used to say, the day the world started eating ulsi, flaxseed, half the problems will go away, and it is true. This is one thing that most of us miss out. I had missed out. I didn't know about it. Fiber is what our body works on. Fiber is what your colon loves. We used to think till about 2 decades ago, and when I studied science, biology, the colon is just there to accumulate the fecal matter and for body to absorb the water back so that you can go and have a bowel movement. That was wrong. Your colon, actually, we now know, is a microbiome. It's a garden in your body. Your colon has as many foreign cells as your body. If your body has 10 trillion cells, there are 10 trillion tiny cells in your colon, which need the fiber. And with that fiber, with that soluble fiber, the colon is making this flora, this garden is making vitamins every day. Okay. This is new knowledge. We didn't know that 2 decades ago. And more research is going on. And finally, the Western world has acknowledged that there are 3 types of, at least they have acknowledged so far 3 types. The 3 types of human beings. And their colon structure of those, in colon you have bacteria, you have fungi, you have viruses, all these microorganisms. And the colon structure is different. The people who eat meat, who are non-vegetarian, their colon is different. People who are vegetarian or vegan, their colon is different. And there's another 3rd type, okay? So they have now acknowledged that there are at least, I talked about Ayurveda, where we say that there are actually 10 different types. There were 3 main types, and then other 6 subtypes or 7 subtypes. Okay, so these are the nutrients. A lot of minerals we don't pay attention to. And then we run into problems. We eat too much sodium, we eat too much salt, we don't eat enough vegetables, we lack potassium, and there are many diseases which come as a result of that. One thing that I do recommend is that when you're eating salt, try to eat Himalayan salt, or pink salt that comes from Himalaya, as opposed to the salt that's made from seawater. Because the Himalayan salt is rich in 60 different minerals, whereas the sea salt is not. Okay, moving on. Politics of food and healthcare. So let's talk a little bit about how the greed comes into play, how different motivating factors influence decisions. The food industry. So till a few hundred years ago, you go, you buy potatoes, come back, and you make potato curry and eat it. You can probably buy one large potato for maybe 1 rupee. I don't know what the going rate is, but or 2 rupees. Same potato, you can finely slice it and make 100 thin pieces, fry them in cottonseed oil, and sprinkle with salt, and you can sell it for 25 rupees or 50 rupees. I don't know the prices here. 50 times profit, sales price, revenue is 50 times. So the food industry evolved. And they said, don't make your food, we'll make it convenient for you, buy our food. Food industry's interest is in selling you more food, not making you healthy. Their goal is that you buy more and more. And they take pride in it. They have psychologists on their staff who are trying to taste a new food and the structure of how that food should be made. In fact, they take pride in telling you, you can't stop at 1. Pringle chips, that's the advertisement line they have. If you eat 1, you'll want to keep eating more and more and more. That's what the psychologists, the PhDs who are on the staff of food companies are doing. Okay. They want you to buy more food. They don't want you to cook food. They don't want you to eat food because that's a loss of revenue to them. Now, by eating that food, you fall sick. When you fall sick, you go see a doctor. So that decision made by the food industry has benefited the doctor. Many doctors have forgotten about that oath I talked about. And the oath itself was misinterpreted, okay, because the original oath said by diet and lifestyle only. The doctors very, very conveniently will say, okay, I'll give you a pill, go take this pill. And that's what is going on. So a doctor benefits from the illness caused by food industry. The medicine that doctor prescribes benefits the pharmaceutical industry. They are very, very, very pleased to oblige. And it's the greed that is at play here. And the government, which is supposed to control these three industries, Food and Drug Administration, I'm talking US, somehow most of the world, at least for a few decades, or the last 7-8 decades, have been following American research. They think if America does it, it should be all right. So we can also do it. So you and I, the consumer, are at the end of the stick here. Nobody's really worried about us. It's the greed that is in play. The government has a revolving door policy. All these people from these industries land up in government because they say, hey, they know the most about the business anyway, so government should hire them. And when they retire from government, they go back to these industries and get hired as on lucrative jobs, as lobbyists, or some other administrative role. So it's a revolving door policy in these four organizations. And that becomes clear as you learn more and more about it. It's not that your doctor that you go to has any bad intentions. In America, the doctors are supposed to follow standard procedures. If a doctor does not follow a standard procedure, if your fasting blood sugar is 135, a doctor examines you, and he does not prescribe you the medication, metformin, his license will be canceled, and you can file a lawsuit against him, and he will lose. So doctors are bound. First of all, the doctors have been brainwashed for 5 years or 4 years when they were studying. There are a lot of elderly people here, my age group. When somebody talks to you, say, oh, my daughter is studying medicine. My son is studying medicine. Oh, my daughter is studying medicine. They're studying medicine. They're not studying good health. Nobody goes to medical college to study good health. They go to medical college to study medicine. I'll tell you a story. Back in 1920s, almost 100 years ago, there were many different healthcare practices. Even in India, you went to Hakim, you went to Ved, you went to Ayurveda. Similarly, in America also, there were 8-10 different practices. Nature cure, chiropractor, homeopath, blah, blah, blah. Two individuals, two very wealthy individuals, Mr. Rockefeller and Carnegie. They said, we must formalize this industry. So they recommended to the government, to the Senate, that we should study the different practices. The report is called Flexner Report. You can Google it later on and read about it. Flexner, Flexner Report. Flexner was a middle-level manager in Rockefeller organization. Rockefeller said, I will build a team to study it. They went all over the country. They spent 2 years studying various colleges and practices. The result was they said we need to formalize the medical education into a 4-year program. We must have a very selective criteria to admit students. And from now on, only these graduates can prescribe medicine. Nobody else should be allowed to prescribe medicine. That is how the modern medical industry evolved. Only if you are a licensed physician who has completed an MD program, you can prescribe medicine. If you are a homeopath, you cannot prescribe medicine. If you are a Ayurvedic doctor, you cannot prescribe medicine. If you are a chiropractor, you cannot prescribe medicine. And these two the wealthiest individuals in America, they already had drug industry, pharmaceutical industry. So it was very convenient. And they are the ones who feed all the medical colleges. The universities run on the grants given by the wealthiest people who have pharmaceutical industry besides other industries. So you see, there is a conflict of interest built in. There is a nexus of these 4 industries which is always at play. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. The consumer is suffering. Let's move further. So the food that we recommend, I'm recommending so far, is that one needs to be vegan. One should not eat animal food, and one should not eat processed or refined food. That's how we lived for millions of years. But there are other reasons. What I'm talking is good health as the reason. There's another reason, cruelty to animals. That's another good, ahimsa. In our philosophy, that's ahimsa. It's another good reason to be vegan. Another reason, environmental concerns. Animal food consumes 7 times as much resources as a plant-based food. So if 1,000 acres of land or a piece of land can support, let us say, 1 million people, feeding them a non-vegetarian diet, the same land can feed 7 million people, 7 times as many, if it is purely a vegan diet. There are social and religious reasons, and there are spiritual reasons. Ahimsa I talked about. My focus in the rest of the talk is only health. If you want to read about these things, take interest. There's some documentary movies. I can't see you, but we'll take questions in the end. After the talks, we'll answer individual questions. Now the next question is, so first thing was what to eat. The next thing is when to eat. 1 second. Okay. So I'll cover this and we'll go back to when to eat. So this is the guideline I recommend based on what I have learned from those giants in the current plant-based whole food movement. We call our movement plant-based whole food. Whole food meaning no refined food, no processed food. You can slice it, dice it, peel it, that's okay. You can boil it, cook it, but that's it. So eat peanuts, don't eat peanut oil. Eat sugar cane, don't eat sugar. That's essentially the motto that I'm talking about. So here is the various, the 14, 13 points, something happened there, but the number 1 was no animal food, no milk, no dairy. No animal food, number 1. Number 2, no refined or processed food. No oil, ghee, or sugar. If you are not on any medication, you are perfectly otherwise healthy person, restrict your oil or ghee to only 2 teaspoons per day. 1 teaspoon for lunch, 1 for dinner. And restrict your sugar to only 2 spoons per day. That is if you're healthy. You're not trying to reverse the condition. All chronic conditions, if they're chronic, they can be reversed. So if you are taking medications and say, Lalit, I'd like to get off, please, for first few months till you are able to get off that medication, no oil, no sugar. Eat from all 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, which is your dal, chana, and nuts and seeds. And of course, spices are recommended. Eat a minimum 1% of your body weight in fruits every day. 1% is minimum. You can have 2%, 3%, more the better. In fact, you should try to drink all your water, except the 2 glasses in the morning and 1 glass just before going to bed, by eating water. That's the motto. When you eat watermelon, it's 94% water. When you eat cucumber, it's 94% water. Most vegetables are nothing but water, and most fruits are also more than 80% water. Eat minimum 1% of your body weight in vegetables, at least half of those in green leafy every day. Again, 1% is minimum. If you can have 2%, fine, or 3%, fine. We'll talk further about green juicing. Green juicing is a good way to eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. Otherwise, you'll be chewing whole day like you find the cows roaming around eating food all day. For omega-3, eat 1 tablespoon of flaxseed and 5 walnuts. That takes care of your requirement of omega-3. Take vitamin B12 supplement, vitamin D3 supplement only if you are deficient and you don't get in the sun much. Keep your body hydrated at all times. Minimum half a liter of warm water first thing in the morning before brushing your teeth. Eat your water as much as possible. Start intermittent fasting. We'll talk about it. Slowly reduce your eating window to 8 or even 6 hours. Do extended water-only fast, 3 to 5 day fast twice a year. Walk 10,000 steps or more every day. Love your family and friends unconditionally and stay connected. Pray regularly and have a positive attitude full of gratitude. That you pray is important. Who you to pray to is not important. It's irrelevant. That you pray. Because when you're praying, there's something is going in your mind which gets your hormones metabolize. And that is what is going to help you physically as well. So praying is very important. The sense of gratitude is very important because it helps those necessary hormones in your body. No other restrictions. Eat as much as you want. Let your body decide when to stop. A lot of people ask me, should I eat 2 rotis or 3 rotis? It doesn't matter. Within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, your body will start telling you. You yourself will not eat too much salt. We eat more salt because when we eat processed food, it has a lot of salt. You buy ice cream at McDonald's, it has more salt than the salt you might put in your dal. We don't realize that. Because these PhDs in psychology who are designing the food, they're telling the recipe maker that as you increase the salt and sugar, both can be increased without one feeling satiated. You can't have too much salt. Try putting extra salt in your dal once in a while. You just can't eat it. You mix rice into it, even then you can't eat it. You think I can mix rice, one cup of dal with 1 cup of rice, it should balance out? No, you can't eat it. Okay? Your body knows when to stop and how much to eat. Give the control back to your body. Within a month, your body will become sensitized again. It will stop after a while. You will feel satiated. Okay, so that was a slide I wanted to talk that before. We will have discussion after the talk, question answer session. So I want to talk about when to eat. So we're going to talk about what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, because food is the most important thing, we said. So you all have heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is wrong. Let me tell you how it got started. There was a company. There was a gentleman named Mr. Kellogg. He started making corn flakes, corn flakes out of corn. So you take corn, which is maybe worth 1 rupee, and you can fill a box of corn chips with it and sell it for 50 rupees. This happened in 1920s time frame. His administrative secretary, who was the first dietitian of the times, was being interviewed by a magazine, and she made a comment. That was the first time this line was uttered. The breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is not. Our ancestors did not get up to eat breakfast. They went looking for food. We walked. The men went hunting or scavenging, and the women went looking for berries and fruits with their children. We came back and then we ate. So we probably ate around midday, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the man came. supper was the biggest meal. So this is not true. But you must finish dinner before it is dark. There's in Jainis, they have a concept called Chauvihar. In Chauvihar, they say very clearly, you must finish all your food by sunset. Just imagine when there was no electricity, there's no candles. The people obviously wanted to finish their meal before it got dark. So there you can finish all your chores and then sit in front of a fire and chat. That is how our body evolved. Our body evolved over those 10 million years till we found candles and electricity and other things, and then changed drastically 125, 140 years ago when the electricity came. So that's how our body has evolved, and our body loves it. What is intermittent fasting? It is a new concept. It has become popular after the 1916 Nobel Prize. 2016. 2018 Nobel Prize went to Dr. Honzo, who demonstrated that when we fast, the body can eat cancer cells. The body can increase its immunity against cancer by fasting. And I talked about Dr. Yoshinori, who got 2016 Nobel Prize for showing that when you fast, your body starts to eat itself. Eating itself means eating the protein, which is the spent protein, the misfolded protein, which is sitting in your body. Those dead cells are sitting in your body eats them, and the fit cells survive, the survival of the fittest, the dead cells are eliminated. It's a very, very strong rejuvenating process, anti-aging process. Okay. So there are different ways of doing intermittent fasting. Now many books have been written about it. One fasting is 5-2 fasting. You eat 5 days normal and eat 2 days only 1/4 as much, which is 500 calories. So maybe Monday and Thursday, you're only having evening meal, a light meal in the evening, and the remaining 5 days, you eat your normal meal. That's a form of intermittent fasting. A more common intermittent fasting is these, especially this one, okay? Try to squeeze your meals into a narrow window, and then you fast for the rest of the time. So you finish your meal by dinner by 7 o'clock, and then next morning you start at 11. That's 7-11. So you have 5 hours that night and another 11 hours. That's 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating. So you have maybe your brunch at 11, or light breakfast 11, lunch at 1, and dinner at 6:30. You wrap up your dinner by 7. This is a very powerful tool to get healthy. I can't overemphasize it. The 2 Nobel Prizes, the most recent Nobel Prizes. And many of you may think that you'll feel hungry at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. It doesn't happen. Within 3 weeks, you get used to it. I have, in my WhatsApp groups, I have about 700 people that I'm in constant communication with. And they all initially feel, how can I do that? It's impossible. I feel hungry by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It doesn't happen that way. Hunger has nothing to do with food in your stomach. Hunger is a hormone which follows a circadian clock. Hunger is ghrelin. Ghrelin hormone gets released at the time, 15 minutes before the time. So if you're used to eating cookies with morning tea, 7 o'clock, at 6:45, the urge will start. If you're used to eating lunch at 1, at 12:30, 1:45, the ghrelin is being released in your body. It is circadian clock. Every 10 trillion cells in our body have a clock. We used to think, till a decade ago, that somewhere in the brain must be a clock that is controlling all 10 trillion cells. That is not true. The 2017 Nobel Prize was awarded to scientists who demonstrated that every cell operates on a circadian clock. So it takes 3 weeks to form a new habit. And if you are accustomed to having your dinner at 9, just start eating early. You will not feel hungry. I'm assuring you, you will not. I have done it. Many of my colleagues who are listening to me have done it. And I now only finish my dinner by 6 o'clock in the evening, both my wife and I. And then next day I start at 12 o'clock. So I do what is known as 16, okay, I didn't write that, 18 to 6 fasting is another stage in between. Some people can eat 4, and this is the ultimate of intermittent fasting. A lot of realized Sant Mahatma, they eat only 1 meal in a day in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Your body gets used to it. There are many benefits to it. Today I have just enough time to tell you what to do. I don't have time to tell you why. Why takes weeks in the WhatsApp group to talk about it, to send you videos that you watch at your home to learn. I'm not going to cover the subject of why do all these things that I'm talking about. This becomes a separate topic, long topic. Intermittent fasting, there's a score that you keep of intermittent fasting. You add the time gap between your last caloric food intake in the evening and the first. So if you finish 7 o'clock and you start at 11, your time gap is 16 hours. You count that for the 7 days, okay? And then you do some exercise. So every 1 mile walk is like another point. So if between 7 in the evening and 11 next morning, you're walking 3 miles a day, 7 days, that's 21 miles, that's 21 points. If you're fasting for 14 hours a day, that's 98 hours. So 98 plus 21 becomes 119. You can read your grade here. If you're scoring over 140, that's excellent. You should strive to do that. If you're scoring 120 to 40, it's very good. You're doing well. Under 80 is poor. And a lot of people in India, their score is under 80. Even those who go to gym and go to walking, they do that not during the fasting window. They do it during the eating window. You need to be doing it during the fasting window. What happens is our body can store sugar in the form of glycogen at 2 places. One in the muscles, so that if it's needed immediately, the muscle doesn't have to wait for sugar to come from the blood. If there's an instant reaction and there's an animal and your hand hits your head, it cannot wait for blood to supply the sugar for that movement. So sugar is there next to your muscle, so the muscle can act at an impulse. And second, in your liver as glycogen. So that sugar needs to be consumed and spent. Then only fasting begins. When body gets into the fasting mode, it starts to burn fat. When fat burns, the energy is formed in what is called ketones. And your brain is fed ketones instead of glucose. When your brain starts receiving ketones, it knows there's a shortage of food. When it knows there's a shortage of food, it makes you more efficient. Because it knows that you need to go hunt a rabbit or a chicken or find food. So it makes your thinking crisper and sharper. You don't become dull, you become sharper. And if to run a mile or walk a mile, you normally spend 100 calories, you will now spend 110 calories. Your metabolic rate goes up. You're spending more calorie to do the same task because your body is giving you more energy, saying, do it efficiently. Don't let the rabbit run away from you. Okay? Go out and search for food. That is what body is telling you. Body tells you that as soon as it gets ketones instead of glucose as a source of energy in his brain. So this is a good way for you to track. I recommend at least try to achieve. It's not difficult. It only appears difficult. Once you start doing it, it becomes very easy. And you will feel yourself so much full of energy. I will talk a little bit later about long-term fasting as well, but let's move on. How to eat. So eating raw is the best way. But a lot of things you cannot eat raw. You cannot eat raw potatoes. You cannot eat raw arbi or grain or cereals or chole. So the next best thing is sprouted. So your moong, you put your moong in the water, in 2 days it sprouts. It becomes very soft. And now you can eat it as a moong salad. It tastes great. You can boil, you can steam, you can bake, broil, stir fry, don't do deep fry. And in India, we love deep frying. Just don't do deep fry. High temperature baking is not as good as boiling. And the beauty of our food, whoever designed our food system, if you read among the Western research, they will say boiling is not good because in their mind, you boil the zucchini or potatoes and then you throw the water away. So they say some of the nutrients are lost in the water, but we don't do that. We cook it in the water and then we eat it, the sabji, with the curry. You make matar aloo, this is there, the water remains there. And what a brilliant idea. So they all are fine except for deep frying. Now, green juicing, how to eat, this is one other way that I want to discuss. I have found that when you make small changes, the results are also small. They're not noticeable. When they're not noticeable, you lose some confidence. Oh, that fellow came, Lalit, and he was talked about, but I don't see any change. You made a small change. Nothing has happened to my weight hasn't gone down. But when you make a drastic change, the changes are noticeable. Your friends come and say, hey, Rakesh, what are you doing? I mean, God, you look different, you know. Or Sarina, what has happened? When they notice the changes, you get motivated more. So you do more changes. You say, God, this is working. This is really working for me. I feel good. Everything is fine. So sometimes it helps to make a drastic change. The easiest drastic change is add juice. Because another thing is, it's difficult to give up things that you're used to eating. But it's easy to add. So the idea is to consume large quantities of green vegetable. Eating raw vegetable is the best. Juicing is only second best. I want to emphasize that. But it's a very convenient way to build a new habit. And I did that. Buy yourself a slow speed juicer. And you can also make smoothie. It's your choice. A smoothie makes you feel bloated, so it's not as good. But juicing is a great way, and it's the easiest way to add a habit. Develop a habit of having a glass of juice 20 minutes before every meal. Then later on, after 3 months, once you're off medications, you can bring it down to 1 glass in the morning. The first thing in the morning is, of course, water, with some lemon, preferably warm water. But second thing in the morning, at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, should be a glass of green juice. We discussed that. Okay. So we'll talk about now detoxification. Every cell in human body, all 10 trillion cells, needs nutrient which we call prana. Prana, we wrongly call prana to be just the life, that he's prana hai, prana chale gaye. But prana is the life, the nutrient, the oxygen that comes into every cell. And then that cell needs to remove something. That's apana. So prana and aprana go in sync. So that's why detoxification is very important, because that's apana. Now, some of the detoxification happens naturally, but let's see, I have here. Where do we get toxins? The toxins come in the food we eat, all the pesticides. If you are using milk, milk has growth hormones that are given to cow so that it will produce more milk. Cow is also fed food which is not fit for human consumption because they're pesticides. So food which is not good, you feed it to the cow. Well, it comes back to you. In the milk, the pesticides, you can measure them. Okay. Cow is also given to keep cow alive in a dirty environment. They give them a lot of antibiotics. Those antibiotics come in the milk, the traces of that. That's a toxin. Okay. So food is, we're eating also, when they harvest wheat in America, they spray Roundup. Roundup is used to get rid of weeds from your lawn. We buy Roundup in small cans in America. And it says it's very harmful. But to harvest wheat with these combine tractors, they use Roundup. A week before harvesting, they spray Roundup all over the field. The field dries up evenly. They can bring the combines and harvest wheat in 24 hours. The water we drink, in India at least, we all know about it. The water has toxins. We all are using different types of filters. The air we breathe, again, for Delhi, oh, we all know about that for sure. The lotions we apply to our body, the makeup, all forms of makeup, the creams, that's the source of toxin as well. The cleaning surfaces that we use, the sprays to clean, they are all toxic. At our house, we don't use any sprays. It's all vinegar. Vinegar and pine oil combination clean surfaces, or add some lemon juice to it. So these are different sources of toxins we get. Let's talk about the sources of toxins in food alone now, focus on that. Hydrogenated oil is a big source of toxin, and I want to tell a story about that. There was a company in the late 19th century which made soaps and candles. And to make soap and candle, you need oil, and they used to buy tallow and lard, which is beef fat and pork fat, to make candles and soap. Now, along that, they started using, because the beef and tallow was expensive, there were things which were being thrown away like cotton seed. So cotton was useful, cotton seed we had no use. They started making oil out of cotton seed oil. And then they hydrogenated that oil. Because oil, cottonseed oil, like other oils we see, peanut oil, mustard oil, all those oils are unsaturated oils. So there's some hydrogen elements are missing. By hydrogenating it, becomes saturated. Once it becomes saturated, it is solid at room temperature. That's what they needed to make soap and candles. So it's a big industry. They were making cottonseed oil, hydrogenating it. And suddenly the power came, electricity came in all over America. So the demand for candles went away. So half of their business got wiped out in a span of few years, 2-3 years. What to do? Now, at the same time, heart disease has started. People have started dying. Some people, heart illnesses, some heart failures, things like that. So they said, why not sell this hydrogenated oil to people as a vegetable oil? What a great idea. That is dalda. Dalda is hydrogenated vegetable oil. Of course, in America, the cooking meant baking, mostly. For baking, you need solid butter. So they could not use oil like in India. We can use liquid oil. Doesn't matter. Mustard oil is liquid oil. So by hydrogenating, they made it consistent and firm. So you can mix it with dough and make a dough to bake bread. And the company's name is Crisco. Crisco became the largest selling oil, or what we call dalda in India, or hydrogenated fat, And they also call it vegetable shortening. It sounds very exciting. Hey, vegetable shortening, how could it be bad for us? It's vegetable shortening. And it is nothing but hydrogenated. And today, if you were to ask me a question, just give me one food, which is the worst food. I will not say that one food is egg or chicken or anything. That is dalda. It has been proven, it has been banned in America. In India, it is still available. And a lot of food that you buy at Bikaner or Haldiram, those namkeen, dalmot, chips, sevai, things like that, a lot of that is cooked in dalda type of ghee, vanaspati ghee. Okay. My second session will be shorter. So these are different ways that the monosodium glutamate, the MSG, the Chinese food uses. The thing about MSG is when you eat food with MSG, you can keep eating. You don't feel full. You don't feel satiated. And you overeat. And it's a very bad. Similarly, these artificial sweeteners, they are very bad. Okay. So like that in our food, there are a lot of sources of growth hormones in the milk, refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup. There are also toxins. Refined oils with excessive omega-6 is a toxin. Municipal water supply, alcohol, tobacco. So how do we detoxify? We detoxify. Body has a natural response. You go, you pee out. That's the detoxification. You sweat. That's detoxification. You go to toilet in the morning. That's detoxification. So body has natural responses. Body cleansing, we brush our teeth in the morning, bathe ourselves. We have got some good habits in modern society which weren't there 10,000 years ago. That's a detoxing. Another detoxing is drink a lot of water in the morning, at least half a liter with some lemon juice or amla extract or something. It's a very good detoxifying. Make that a habit, a very good habit. Walking is detoxifying because detoxification happens in your lymphatic system. We have a blood system, we have a lymphatic system. Lymphatic system takes the toxins away from the peripheral of the body. Blood supplies the energy. And so lymph nodes are in our underarms and where our legs connect to our body. So walking is one of the best detoxifying technique. That's why you need to walk, you need to move. Because lymphatic system does not have a pump like the blood system has. Your heart is the pump for your blood circulation. For lymph circulation, your body needs to move. There are some other techniques. Fasting I talked about is a very good detoxification technique. Not only intermittent fasting, but long-term fasting. 24 hours, 60 hours, 2 days, 3 days, and extended fasting. Colon irrigation, taking enema, in yoga we talk about it, is a very good way to clean your colon. It's a detoxification technique. Yoga has kriya. Kapalbhati is a kriya in yoga, which is a very good detoxification technique. Asanas are also detoxifying. When you do asanas, you're applying pressure to different parts of your body. You're increasing blood supply. When you do headstand, the blood is gushing to your pituitary gland and hypothalamus. That helps in the detoxification. Pranayama, I talked about that. That's a very good detoxification. And meditation is also a very good way to detoxify you. Okay, this is dry fasting. So this is one experiment I want you to understand. A Russian scientist took 120 mice and created 4 groups of 30 each. Group 1 was fed with a carcinogen sarcoma injected into them, okay, so that they'll get cancer. Group 1 was fed before starting the fast. Group 2 was fed during the fast. Group 3 was fed upon termination of dry fast. And Group 4 was the control group which did not fast at all. The survival rates were as following. Group 1, 50% survived and 50% died of cancer. Group 2, 66% survived. Group 3, 100% survived. Group 4, none survived. That gives you the power of fasting. These Nobel Prizes are not given for nothing. Fasting is the best tool you have for detoxification. That is what animals do. Even we humans, when we get cold, your 8-year-old child says, "Mom, I don't want to eat anything." His body is telling him. And we say, "No, beta, have some chicken soup. You haven't eaten since morning." Don't interfere. Let the body do its job. Fasting is not going to kill anybody. The longest fast that has been done is 385 days. Okay, that's 14 months. With only water and nothing else. We all have enough fat in our body to make us survive 90 days at least. Everybody. Okay, so fasting is not going to kill. Okay, physical activity. I won't spend too much time on it. Most of you know many things. As I said, food is the primary focus. But yes, walking is important. Do some walking. Try to do 10,000 steps, as I said in my recommended guideline. Get a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something that counts your step. Some cardiovascular workout, at least twice a day for 1 minute. Climb up and down stairs if you have an apartment building. Or you're on the 4th floor, just try. You don't need to do cardiovascular for long periods. Twice a day, bring your pulse to within 85% of your maximum pulse, which is 220 minus your age. 220 minus your age is your maximum pulse. Take it to 85% of that for 1 minute in the morning time, 1 minute in the evening. Stretching exercises, spinal exercises, yoga and pranayama, all good for you. Emotional support. Mind over matter. We all know that our body changes with the thoughts we have. We all in our life have made love, and we know that just the thought can change your physique, your body, get the hormones flowing. So the same thing happens in other hormones as well. What are your thoughts, whether you're praying or you're showing affection to your children or to your grandmother? They all have effect on your body. So laughter is very good for your good health. A spousal connection, we all know stories. The people live together for 70 years after marriage, and when the husband died, the wife died within a month, or the other way around. It's emotional. When that goes, the will to live goes away. So that is important. Family and friends are important, and a sense of community is important. Unfortunately, we are losing sense of community, and family and friends have become WhatsApp family and friends as opposed to physical contact, and WhatsApp can't replace it. Know your neighbor. Try to say hello and have some small talk with neighbors. They are your friends. The spiritual balance, again, very important. Same thing, mind over matter. Placebo, nocebo. It's very important. Placebo effect is where if you believe it's going to help you, it might help you. Very often does help you. Not always, but very often does. Nocebo is also, we are learning about nocebo now. Now, we all knew that in our history, such and such Panditji or Maharishi gave a shrap. What was shrap? Shrap was nocebo. He said, you're going to die at the age of 50, and you actually die because you start thinking. Okay? It has a negative impact on you. They have done research now that nocebo works. If you're expecting something bad to happen, something bad will happen more often than not. Tension and anxiety, we all know about that. That affects our health. Power of prayer, I talked about that. Power of concentration. Power of concentration is something we are learning now. In yoga, when we talk Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, The fourth limb is, the third limb is asana, which is Hatha Yoga, as we know. The fourth limb is pranayam. Pranayam is concentration, concentrating on your breath at the exclusion of all other thoughts. Pranayam leads to concentration, which we call dharana. Dharana is when you do a jap of a mantra. You close your eyes and you may say Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru in your mind, or Hey Ram, or Om, or Hari Om, whatever brings you that positive feeling, that feeling of reverence in you. That's important. So that's why the story of Valmiki is, instead of saying Hey Ram, he said Mara Mara. But the feeling was there. So that power that works, okay. And there is a new field of psychology. It's about 25 years old in America. They finally said, we have studied the psychotics enough. Let's start studying people who are well-adjusted, they're happy people. Why these people are happy? That study started. And as a result of that study, they have found that when people concentrate deeply into something that they have certain skill in, they achieve a tremendous sense of happiness. People say the happiest moments in my life are when I did this. The time compresses. The 16 hours compress into 4 hours. Okay. And a lot of research is done. As a part of that research, they started doing happiness survey in the world, where Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they rank among the top 3, 4, including Iceland. One of the son-in-law is from Iceland. It's dark there for 6 months. It's so cold there. But those people are rated as the 4th happiest people on the planet. So, concentration, meditation. So this is, I think that concludes my first phase of the talk. Anurag.
Thank you, Lalit. You have done an exceptionally well presentation from 0 to 100. A pretty long lecture. So now, gentlemen, we will be having the workshop after the break, not now. So far, it was only monologue. You have simply listened. Lalit has created a ballpark for you to think how you can get well. But then there is another angle, and that is yoga for detoxification as well as for your health. So may I request our yoga guru, Sandeep Nigam, to briefly tell you what is yoga. Is it only for the body, or it is much beyond that? I think it is much beyond that. And those things we really do not know. Sandeep Nigam.
Yeah, thank you. Namaskar.
And after that, we will have a break. During the break, lunch break or whatever you call it, healthy vegan food break, you can have freely interaction with Lalit. And after this, after the break, we will have an interactive session where all of you will be able to ask questions how you can improve your health. Right?
Will this be visible from back? I don't have a PPT. I'll make use of whiteboard. Right? So is it fine from there? Okay. So my name is Sandeep Nigam. I'm from the 1988 batch of IIT Kanpur. Somewhere along the line, you know, I never really was. I think many of you also must be, you know, feeling whether engineering really was my cup of tea. I'm sure many of you would be asking some of these questions when you reach a certain age. But for me, engineering was never really the in thing. I just happened to be an engineer by design, or not by design, but just by providence. I was always interested in more in the human technology part of it, not the information technology or the engineering technology. So last year, when my children became old enough probably to take care of themselves, I thought, why not pursue my passion? And my passion was, as I said, human technology, which is two-pronged. One is, of course, if you look at the Eastern and Indian side of it, it's yoga and Vedanta and Western psychology, right? So what I'm doing nowadays is, since the last year, is teaching emotional intelligence to the corporates and business houses, and also pursuing my passion of yoga, teaching yoga, and also not just yoga in the form of asanas, but I also teach yoga to the aspiring yoga teachers in a 101-year-old institution called the Yoga Institute. It goes by that name. You can Google it up. It's a 101-year-old, one of the oldest institutions of yoga, and it's got a branch in Delhi where I go and teach yoga to the aspiring yoga students. So that's in brief about me. Before I just start with yoga, let me just ask you one question. So what I'll do is, I have given it a title, but I'll not try to define it, right? I just have half an hour. Half an hour is too short a time to do justice with a profound topic. It's not just a topic, it's a philosophy, right? So, but I'll just try to condense as much as I can, and probably if you are interested, we can talk it over during the break as well. So just let me ask one question and get some response from the audience. What do we actually mean by yoga? Can anyone give his or her views? Okay, good. Good. Meaning of the mind and your body, right? Be one with your higher self, right? Yeah. So it's good. So I think it's good to have such a grand and esoteric definitions coming in. The only problem what happens there is what exactly. I think you're all very, very correct in what you say. Aligning with your higher self, aligning with the cosmos. But what exactly is that higher self? What is cosmos? That is something which we really don't try to get to understand, right? And yogic philosophy is what tries to answer it. I'll try to delve upon it maybe very shortly in the later part of the talk. But first, I will start with the physical aspect of yoga, because that is what we actually used to, right? When we say yoga, we sort of identify yoga with the asanas, right? So let me just try to take you through the journey of asanas itself. As many of you would have performed some asana, at least stretch. You have stretched your hands or bent. So that also is an asana. So you'll just try to first see, when you do a yogasana, how does it actually impact our body, our being as such, right? So it's a very experiential, right? Yoga is a very experiential science, right? So let's say when we do an asana first, what happens? First, it impacts the joints, skeletal, and muscular system, right? Please pardon my writing, it's been terrible, but I hope you can get what I'm writing here. So the first thing we see is the joints, skeletal system, and the muscular system. I think that's our experience also, right? Then what happens is our spine. Our spine is, we can feel it in our spine, fine? Then, so what I'm trying to do is from gross to subtle. So from joints, skeletal system, muscular system, we go to the spine, then the internal organs. When we do the asana, the internal organs in our, this is the area where we have got these internal organs. You know, all these internal organs, they get massaged, right? And we can actually feel it. So we get to the internal organs. The breath. We have seen this. The breath is what gets impacted, right? Your breath becomes slow as you do the asanas. So you can feel impact on your breath as well. The circulatory system. When you're doing an asana, right? When you're stretching your body, compressing your body, all the blood-carrying vessels, they are being stretched. So the circulation gets impacted, right? The endocrine system. Now, this is very interesting. I think those of you who know about yoga would have heard about chakras, right? We've got 7 chakras, 6 in the spine and 1 in the head. That's called the Sahasrara chakra. And it's amazing to know this is something which was chronicled and experienced by our sages thousands of years ago. Medical science has now found that the location of the endocrinal glands are exactly at the point where these chakras are. So we have, in the Sahasrara chakra, we have hypothalamus and pituitary gland. The Agya chakra, where we have this, we've got the pineal gland, right? We've got a thyroid gland over here, we've got the thymus gland, we've got pancreas over here. So that exact location where we have got these chakras, we have these glands, right? And yogic asanas, they impact, they rejuvenate the chakras. And this is a very well-known medical fact. And we all know how important these endocrine system or these glands are. So, and in fact, endocrine system, this revelation is one of the main reasons why yoga grew in acceptability in the West and then in India, because they did this, experimentation and found that the endocrine system gets impacted in a very positive way. Then we have this nervous system. You've got these nerves, right? You've got these nerves in the spinal cord. You've got the nerves all over. So these nerves, when you do the yoga asanas, they get activated, right? And the nervous system, that's why we feel rejuvenated, we feel calm. And the nervous system has the direct connection to our brain, which goes to mind, right? So what I'm trying to derive here is from the gross, which is the joints in the skeletal system, we traverse to the mind, right? So yoga is not just for the body, but it's for the mind as well. And this is how we actually derive this whole journey over here. Okay? A chalk. Okay. I know my writing is terrible, so I apologize sincerely for that. Okay. Now, what yoga is not, right? It's important to know what yoga is not. When I talk of yoga, it's about the yoga asanas as of now. And this is important to know because many of us feel that asanas are good, they look very good. We have seen people doing Mayurasana, we have seen people, yogis standing on their head doing Shishasana for hours together. But is it something really for me? I mean, it's too tough. People, they just put their palms down and lift their whole body up. Yeah, Mayurasana, I mean, I can't even dream of doing it, let alone think of doing it, right? So I'm just trying to push down some points what yoga is not. Okay? Is not. It is not acrobatics. It is not acrobatics. So, in fact, had that been the case, the gymnasts would have been the best yogis. It is not the case. So just because someone has a very elastic body, one can jump and fly at will, doesn't make him or her a good yogi. It has nothing, it has got very little to do with yoga. Yes, if they want to do, they can do good asanas, but not that you need to have a very flexible or an acrobatic body to be a yogi, right? Practiced by everyone. Now this is, I said, democratizing yoga. So there's several scriptures in Hatha Yoga, which is one of them is called Hatha Yoga Pradipika, written by Swami Swatmaram. And there he puts a sutra which says that yoga can be practiced by children, it can be practiced by the old. Of course, it is for those who are disease-free, and it is also for the infirm, right? Even if you are not very well, you can do yoga. I'll give you just a simple example. And this is something which has been experimented. by a senior teacher of the Yoga Institute in conjunction with AIIMS. So let's say someone who has got a very bad shoulder, very bad spine, right? Can't move, can't really do spinal exercises. He or she can just sit here, right? And with breath, even if you can raise your shoulders like this and release, that itself is yoga. And with persistent effort over several weeks or several months, you can get back a lot of what you have lost. And this is not just a theory, this has actually been conducted as an experiment in conjunction with AIIMS, and people have benefited. People having chronic diseases, when they did yoga with simple exercises persistently over a long period of time, they have found very positive results, right? Persistence is the key, right? So everyone can practice yoga. This is not a competition. Not a competition, right? Do not harm yourself. So this is important. While you're doing your yoga, it has to be done to your capacity without harming yourself, right? So this is important. Other thing is, there's no quick fix solutions. There are no quick fix solutions. You have to be persistent over a long period of time. Only then will you get the desired benefits. So this is very important. Now, when you are doing an asana, there are three things that are actually happening. One is you start with a posture. So there's something called a starting posture. Then there are steps, and then you release the posture. So I'll just try to explain this by a small example. So when you're making food, in a house, so what do you have to start with? You will have all the recipes, the vegetables, the spices, all put together neatly. Without that, you can't cook. No matter how good a cook you are, you can't make a good dish. So that is what is this starting posture. Similarly, if I have to, let's say, bend right to the right, and my hand is crooked, my elbows are just going up like this, the end result will be like this. You got it? So the starting posture has to be, each asana would have a certain requirements of a starting posture, which is where your leg should be, where your hand should be, where your gaze should be. And this is important so that you have got the required recipe in place before you are doing an asana. The steps, of course. When you are making a dish, you can't just put everything together, jumble it up and cook it. There has to be some certain specific steps of what comes what and after which. So these are the important things for the steps. And then when you release the posture, it shouldn't be in a jerk. So if you release it in a jerk, you will harm yourself. So again, you have to follow the same guidelines for getting back to the original posture, right? So again, you have to ensure that you are following all these steps, all the guidelines in a very scientific, step-by-step way to get the desired results. Now, there are 6 spinal postures that we have. Now, why spine is important? So there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, it is in a different context, but I'm just trying to add it to you, in which Lord Krishna says that our body is like an inverted tree. But that is to do with the samsara. What we can look at our body itself is, if we invert our body, the major part is the brain. Because brain is what feeds us. The brain is cut off. No matter how healthy your limbs and the other organs are, you are dead, right? So this is what is feeding our body. So this is the most important part. Then we come to, like in a tree, the roots are the most important part. If you do not have the roots, if you cut off the supply of all the nutrients, the tree will die away. The next important part is the trunk in the tree, right? Because it's a trunk that holds the structure of the tree together, and it's a trunk through which all this nutrition passes. Similarly, our spine is what? The vertebral column, we've got 33 vertebrae. That is what actually holds our structure together. And through it, we have something called the spinal cord, right? Through which all the nerves pass. And these days, we have heard about a very common disease. It's called sciatica. It's very much prevalent these days. And sciatica and all these are nothing but just because our vertebrae column degenerates, these vertebrae, they go and touch these nerves, especially sciatica, you have all these problems. So spinal cord is a very essential part of our body. And that is why if you really see the asanas that we have, they are basically around the 6 postures of our spinal cord, which is so the first one is upper stretch. Stretch. So we stretch upwards. No, that's it. That's the first posture. Second is lateral stretch. It makes use of all these stretches of the spinal cord. Second is the lateral stretch in this vertical plane. The third would be forward bending. Fourth is backward bending. Right? Fifth is the spinal twist. And the sixth is inversion, right? Shishasana, Sarvangasana. No, that's the sixth one. So all these asanas that we have are in one of these 6 categories, which actually is called a different spinal postures for the asanas. Now, the important part is this. The asana itself is incomplete. So it is like this. We just be wondering, I'm saying gymnast, yoga is not gymnastics. But all these postures done physically is just a gymnastics, right? So what is different in yoga that we don't have in gymnastics? So a very major part is to do with the awareness part, right? When we are doing an asana, we have to be fully with the asana. We have to, something that I call experience the asana. And how we do it? It's to do with full awareness. So when I say I bend my hand, right, I should experience it. In the sense, there are 2 things which get added. One is the breathing rhythm. So if you do an asana with a breathing rhythm of inhalation, holding, and then exhalation, that is one part. The second part is you feel the asanas in terms of putting your awareness to all the sensations in the body that you are having, right? So what this does is, if you see it this way, what do we do in meditation? In meditation, if any of you have done meditation, you become aware of certain things in your body. You put your awareness into your body, to your consciousness, and other parts, and visualize other things, right? So here also, as you focus on a particular part of your body, your mind gets connected to that movement. And that is where you get to experience the asana. You try and do an asana just as a physical posture, and then you try to do it with awareness, with breath. Then you will experience the asana, and actually you will get to know the difference between the 2 different modes of doing the asana, right? Let's talk about the pranayama, a bit about the pranayama. So in Ashtanga Yoga, which Lilithji alluded to, we have Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayama. When Swami Vivekananda, he went to Chicago in that Parliament of Religions, one good reason and one main reason why Vivekananda was such a hit, because the point was that in the US and in the world over, people were more into theistic religions, no? the belief part. But if you see in the 1890s, with the rise of materialism, with the rise of science, right, people were finding it difficult to relate to theistic religions or religions of faith. Now here, when Vivekananda went to US, he talked about yoga, he talked about Vedanta, which are experiential, which are not based on faith. So in yoga, you don't start with a faith. In Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, you don't start with a faith. It's experiential. So when he gave the lecture on pranayama to the audience, he starts off with a very profound phrase, which probably we are not, which kind of will shatter what belief we would have about pranayama. He says, pranayama is not a breathing exercise. That is first statement that he makes. That's then Raja Yoga. Second statement that he makes is, it has got very little to do with breathing, if at all. Right? Now, if we just try to dissect the definition of pranayama, it's pran and ayam. Pran, ayam. Pran. Now, he defines pran. Of course, he does it in a very profound way. He starts with a cosmic pran and how the same cosmic pran is there within us. So each activity, I mean, the nerve currents which run our body, our mind, the circulation that is going on, the digestion that's going on, each and every activity of our body or mind, there is some force behind it, right? And this is what the yogis called pran. Pran and ayam means regulation or redirecting. So redirecting or regulating that pran is called pranayama. In a way, we can say that the breath and a pran has the same connection as the rotating fans of a fan, rotating wings, blades of a fan, and the electrical current has. Right? So electrical current is the force behind the rotation of the fans. So in the same way, the movement of lungs is done by the pran. And the gross manifestation is the breath that we take. So breath is the gross manifestation of the pran. So if we were like to define what exactly is happening, so the way we breathe is this, that in C5 vertebrae we have this nerve called phrenic nerve, right? That gives a signal to the diaphragm, which contracts the diaphragm through the muscular action, and that is how we feel the breath gets filled in. So this movement of nerve current, the nerve signal, that is what pranayama is. And the end result is filling in the breath. But one more thing which the yogis found was, it is possible to control this pran by the movement of this breath. Therefore, they developed these different breathing techniques to control the movement of the forces within our body and our mind. Now, okay. So, would you like to do any meditation or asana or something like that? Could meditation kar deं? Okay. Okay. No, it's I think so. I think so. Can you talk about yoga and stress management in that case?
Thank you, Sandeep. A very illuminating talk on yoga and yoga. Gentlemen, had pranayam not been there, I would not have been here. Way back in 1966, I had irregular heartbeats. And AIMS, Kanpur Medical College, everybody had written me off in 1968. Still I am here because of pranayam. Okay, so now we will have some healthy vegan